Well, hello and welcome again to the Skillwork Forum. As always, I'm Tim, joined with my partner Brett from Skillwork. Today we are really excited to have on somebody that we've been wanting to talk to for a long time, Dr. Ernie Goss from our local outstanding university here in Omaha, Creighton University. Dr. Goss, I'm going to introduce you, but he's going to give us his insights and perspectives on where we're looking economically. So I'm not going to mess this up. So I'm going to introduce you according to what I have here. But again, as you know, on this forum, we talk about things around the skilled trades and manufacturing. Well, everything is driven by, economic indicators, or we live in the same world regardless of whether you're manufacturing widgets or you're selling widgets. It doesn't matter. We all live and breathe and work inside this economic bubble. So this is relevant to all of us. So we're really grateful to have Dr. Goss. He is a director of the Institute of Economic Inquiry and a professor of economics at Creighton University and the Hyder College of Business. Mm-hmm. He's also the director of the Goss Institute for Economic Research. This is a bipartisan think tank that conducts really some great business and economic research. As an economist, Dr. Goss is highly respected. We look forward to hearing his reports on the Midwest region here, the Mid-American economy, which feeds into the overall U.S. economic outlook. He's really an expert in this field. He's trusted voice. He's often called to shed light, a lot of media, a lot of interviews, and a lot of consulting. So we're privileged to have you with us today, Dr. Goss. Welcome to the Skillwork Forum.
Well, thanks, Tim. And I get, you saw the Seinfeld episode when they introduced George, and the introduction was so kind. You just said, "Well, I got to leave now." So your introduction's so kind. I think I'll just leave now.
Yeah. Well, we're of the same area. We still appreciate Seinfeld. I think I could quote half the episode.
Yeah, I use those Seinfeld and the students in my class. Like, what?
Who?
Yeah. What is that?
Wow. When the last one was.
Yeah. Well, you are much more gifted than George was, but
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
Anyway. Maybe in economics.
Yeah, for sure. So, we're just going to kick off some topics here and let you shed some light on things, and perhaps give us some insights on what you're thinking and looking forward to as we get into 25.
Yeah. Well, thank you for joining us. And so kind of on a broad sense, we'll just kind of jump in, kind of what's your overall outlook on the U.S. economy? And I know you folks Midwest, but I know you also look broader too. And so, but what is your outlook or do you have, maybe compare that a little bit to 24 if you want to, or, are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic?
Well, I'm what's called a perma bear. So most economists are perma bears, meaning we typically see the gray lining around the silver cloud. So, and I'm sort of that way. And some of these, I used this analogy yesterday. I did a little group thing, and I said, well, the U.S. is the healthiest horse in a glue factory. And one of the guys wrote that down. He said, well, I'm going to quote you on that. I'm like, it's not mine. I didn't use that. Clean shirt and a dirty laundry. I mean, the list is long. But essentially, the U.S. economy is reasonably, probably is one of the stronger economies on the globe. Europe is really slowed down. China is slowed down. And Germany is in negative territory, for example. So the U.S. is moving along, but there's too much FOMO, fear of missing out. There's just people are jumping. Any good news is jumped in my judgment, and take it to the bank. And the bad news, well, that's okay. No, there's some bad news. There's some news in there, and we're the guys and gals that take the punch bowl away from the party. We once everything we're just, this is just not, hey, you've a little too much excitement here for us. And there is too much in my judgment. So the economy is slowing down. And one thing that we've really has changed, and the pandemic changed it potentially forever, and it does in our surveys, people just got, nowadays, every time if you go on to, you fly somewhere, you automatically get, please take this survey. So people are surveyed out. And as a result, some of the government surveys, the data is not accurate. The monthly survey of jobs added by the Bureau of Labor Statistics is just off. It's not right. It's wrong. Wrong is not the correct word. It's statistically not invalid, I guess, to be economically use economic speak, and because their participation rate went from about 65% to 45% in the pandemic, and it's remained low. So that they were only surveying 50 to 200 companies a month anyway. And then every quarter they do a bigger survey, which is 95% of the companies. Now that's a much better survey, but it only comes out every quarter and with a delay at that. So that number, the last time it came out, it showed that the monthly surveys overstated job growth by 800,000 jobs.
Right.
So that's what we're seeing right now. And not yesterday for the audience, I'm sure, but yesterday the inflation numbers came out, and I told my students, I said, if it's 0.4%, and that's for the month of December, the market's going to tank. And take that to the bank. Well, luckily, these are not big investors in my class, and they didn't take it to the bank because it did come out at 0.4% month over month. And the market responded very positively, said, well, let's look at the exclude food and energy, which makes it the core rate of inflation. That's important, but it was much lower. It was 0.2%. So the market took the 0.2%. Well, I think last month, the market went with the headline, the one that includes food and energy. Make up your mind. The market is right now looking for any good news. They're overstating, I think, investors globally. And it's hard for me as I'm an individual, one person. Now, I do have individuals I work with, but we pretty much think the same way, I think. Just one person, but the wisdom of crowds. Well, investors are they're right. I assume. We assume they're always right. I don't get it. The market it's overbought, as some would say. In other words, the valuations of the companies, the price of the stock, reflecting now the economy, is at the highest levels ever. The so-called PE ratios and the other measures of the stock market, way too out of bounds. And what's happening is, and this is a long answer. Sorry for this.
No, it's fine. Good.
It's called perhaps most of your audience, and you and I, we contribute to our 401ks. Well, that money goes in and is an ETF, exchange traded funds. A lot of money there. It's a passive investment, so it doesn't matter what the market does. That every month that slams in there, and so it's boosting the market up there to levels they're unattainable in my judgment. I mean, AI. I mean, artificial intelligence. Before I came to Creighton, I did, and I don't encourage individuals to do this. You can go to Google and put Ernie Goss and put neural networks. I published in that area. And I'm no longer publishing in that area because it was, now that was a long time ago. In other words, AI was overstated then and it's overstated now, but it is making real progress. And so that's what we're going to see progress on the AI level, but it's overstated. We're too positive right now. I mean, that sounds bad.
It's interesting that the power of optimism versus pessimism, in individuals and in business, and that's a hard thing to measure. But it's that what somebody coined the phrase. Something exuberant. So basically, the exuberance of the market. Irrational exuberance.
That was December of 1996. Alan Greenspan of the Federal Reserve used that phrase. And you know what I did? I went and moved money out of the stock market into the bond market. And you know what? The market continued to go up. And I'm like, Alan Greenspan is not a friend of mine.
Yeah. So we've listened to a couple of economists that come speak to like manufacturing forums, and the variety of their opinions sometimes is like, okay, there's, like you say, there's some that think, we're on a rocket ship. The U.S. economy is, up and to the right. And others are like, whoa, like you're saying, Dr. Goss. And, a couple of things you pointed out, maybe want to tease out a little bit. So you mentioned briefly this participation rate. And for us, that focuses a lot on the labor market. Mm-hmm. It's something we've tried to get our head around. Obviously, the pandemic accelerated everything, but in your judgment, what have you seen? Why is the participation rate? This is, for those that don't know, this is the number of eligible workers that could be working that aren't.
They're either are looking for work or are in work.
Right.
Two, you add the two together. So it's those working plus those who are looking for work, and then divide that by the eligible work.
And then there's also those that aren't even looking that are potentially eligible, which is I don't know how you measure that.
And that's still low. The participation rate is still low. And this is not very hard. When you pay people more to not work than you pay them to work, what do? They do not work. And so we have this, some would say, a flood of immigration. These men, and mostly men and some women, are coming in and taking jobs that Americans, they're not taking the jobs. And why? Because they qualify for certain benefits. Now, in other words, when you look at the prime working age men, 25 to 55 or so in that area, the number of those who are on disability is amazing. It's very high. So our Social Security system and other benefits. Now, obviously, there are men and women in that bracket that they should be getting the benefits, but it's over too much. I own some property. I don't manage it. I just bought it back in the other downturn in 2008 and 2009, and I turned it over to property manager, so I don't have anything to do with it. So Creighton wouldn't like me doing that. But anyway, when I need some work done, usually it's somebody in the house that's renting the house does it. And why do they have the time? Because they're on disability. I mean, they're up on a roof, repairing a roof. That's roof, and I'm from the Southeast. We don't say roof. I just still can't get that one.
I'm with you.
Anyway, that's who does it. I mean, in other words, if they're well enough to get up on that roof, then they're well enough to be in the labor market. But
So we did a whole podcast talking about this, and the idea is why aren't people working and eligible age working, and focused on males for our space. They're predominantly in the skilled trades. Mm-hmm. And the idea that was one of them, that they're compensated not to work. The other is that, because of the requirements for their skills continue to go up, that the lower end of the market, they can't get the jobs, so they become disillusioned and they stay out of it.
And that's one other thing. I don't mean to take all the air out of the room here and talk so much, but it's amazing. My classroom. You should see when I started in this business, and a long time ago, I had a book, I had a chalkboard, and I had chalk. They had a book, they had a desk, and I talked. They wrote it down. That's not the way it is anymore. Every day is a challenge, and it should be. So what? Why should I be protected? I'm not. Creighton would fire me if I went in there and just started writing on the board, and they should. I mean, I've got to stay video. I'm showing videos, podcasts. I'm interactive. I'm recording when they're not there. When some of them are missing, they want to see the video recording that I did, which means I go into there and it's like, wow, it's like I'm on
a studio.
Yeah, like this. Yeah, and it's very challenging.
You got to change with the time.
I have to. And here's another troubling part. Back to the economy. The longshoremen. East and Gulf Coast longshoremen, they negotiated for a new contract, and one of the important components, that's 17 ports, negotiated a contract, and then one of the deals was they wanted to reduce automation. Now, get real. We have to embrace it. So the person who's out of work, if you stay out of work very long, your skills are atrophying very fast.
No doubt.
I mean, I'm concerned when I take a week off from spring break. I come back, I'm like, wow, how does this equipment work now? Because it's changed. It changes, and that's my responsibility. So the fact is that workers they've got to get retraining, retrain, and then retrain again.
Yeah, they got to invest in themselves.
Yep,
exactly. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Investing in ourselves. Whether your company, whether Creighton does it, for me, or others in manufacturing, that's the challenge.
Is the skilled labor shortage hurting your company's bottom line? Skillwork is the premier staffing agency focusing exclusively on skilled labor. Our team of highly skilled workers augments your existing teams for elevated impact and decreased downtime. Partnering with hundreds of facilities In more than 30 states, we deploy our traveling industrial technicians to work for you on a contract basis. Our philosophy is simple: to honor God in all we do, bring respect back to the skilled trades, and positively impact those around us. For more information on how Skillwork can deliver the top labor talent you need, visit skillwork.com or call us at 402-447-7058. Call us today to see how Skillwork can work for you.
You know, Brett, we talk a lot about talking to manufacturers out there that, hey, you got to upskill your employees, you got to invest in that. And that's true. We do the same thing with our employees. I don't know if it's a generational thing or whatever, you know, but the idea is like, well, okay, we're willing to meet you, but what are you doing to, you know, to invest in yourself and take those steps? And, you know, so I don't know.
Getting people to, like you said, I mean, you know, I'm a big John Maxwell, you know, guy. He's old like us, you know, he's 77, he's even older than us, you know, but, you know, he says, if you don't have a professional development plan, I can't help you. You know, you got to invest in yourself, and
absolutely,
and we do. I mean, a lot of them do. You know, we do certification, SACA. So, you know, I don't want to paint with too broad a brush. You know, we often say, you know, we have a lot of young talent that works for us out in the field. I'd go to fight for a lot of those folks. So, you know, that because they continue to get better. So
they do.
Question on the, you know, I know it's an area, Dr. Goss, that is near and dear to you. So as we talk, you know, we live our life in the manufacturing space. You know, before we started Skillwork, you know, I owned a food manufacturing company for many years. It's what brought us to Omaha. We got to know Creighton and those kind of things. And so, but specific. So what is your outlook on manufacturing? If you want to tie it, you know, more so to the Midwest,
absolutely,
or what?
Here's the other secret back to the outlook, what's going on right now. No, your audience, I'll guarantee you, not that many of them, and I'm sure you got a very sophisticated audience, but they don't know, and the general public doesn't know that manufacturing sector lost. The U.S. manufacturing sector lost about 90,000 jobs in 2024. We're down 90,000. In the region that we survey, down 4,500 jobs. So the fact is that manufacturing I wouldn't say it's weakened, it's rejiggering. And I'm not in manufacturing, but nonetheless, we survey manufacturers. And the outlook is very good if we embrace the market, okay? If we unfortunately, we've had, in my judgment, too much protectionism going on in D.C., coming out of D.C. and saying, well, you know, the CHIPS Act, for example, that money's going to be squandered. I mean, you're propping up Intel, for example. Now, Intel may survive, it may not survive. It was a great back in its days, but our government invested $260 million invested. That's a kind word. It wasn't. I don't see it as like you invest in a slot machine at the casino. That's not investing, in my view. And I might. But one other thing that's really going on now, and it's with manufacturing and everything. The mentality out there, it's all about speculation. There are very few. You know, if you look at the Fortune 5, the richest men and women in the world and America, you look How many of them made it by speculating? Not many. Most of the ones made it by just darn hard work, investing in themselves and working and being excited about their work. I mean, I just listened to Lindsey Graham, Senator from South Carolina. He said, well, we're going to talk to the Treasury Secretary, and it's going to be a dull day. And I'm like, a dull day? What are you talking about? It's exciting to me. Treasury Secretary Besson, he's a candidate. He's a great candidate. That's not dull. If money and making money and their economy is dull, then you live in a world different from me. And I get up every morning, I'm excited about it. And that's I would advise, well, I don't have to advise anybody. I shouldn't advise anybody probably, but nonetheless, get into something. I got a degree in accounting originally when I was undergraduate. Well, I found out that ain't me, boy. That's not me. But it's just a short step over until I went to graduate school and found out economics. Boy, I wake up every morning thinking, gosh, this is great. So, but manufacturing, we the U.S., should not fear competition. We want to erect barriers. And as Robert Frost said, the poet, said, before you wall something in, before you build a wall, find out what you're walling in and walling out. And that's the problem. We're trying to protect the Chinese. I was in graduate school when Japan was going to take over the world. Their automobiles, we can't compete. We can compete with everybody. We're out competing the Chinese. They have to prop up these industries. We prop them up. We don't have to. Our economy is something to behold if we let it run. Let the big dog run.
Yeah, I think I heard you say for manufacturing, embrace the market.
Yes, exactly.
Which is basically compete by producing good products with good employees that drive, value. That's something you believe in. So the opportunity is going to be there, do you think, in the next, let's like 25, but in the next 1 to 3 years, the opportunity for manufacturing space?
Absolutely. I think all of us that live in this mid portion of the nation, we live in the best part of the best nation on the face of the earth. Long run. Short run, got some problems. And right now, we survey bankers in agriculture and we survey manufacturers. Both industries are having difficulty right now, both. But in the end, we're coming back. I mean, Japan, then China. Russia's probably one of the stronger competitors right now, is Russia economically speaking, but we can't fear the Russians in terms of economics. I'm speaking of, and we'll outcompete them. We will. We've got the universities. I mean, are we building a wall on our borders? I mean, Cuba has to erect borders to keep people in. We have to erect borders to keep people our barriers to keep people out. The whole globe wants to come here. And Elon Musk, he's getting a real pushback from Republicans and Democrats when he says, we need these men and women that are skilled, that want to come here. They get their degrees here from Creighton, Iowa State, Nebraska, University of Nebraska, Omaha. They get their degree. They need to get a green card.
Yeah.
Don't send them back.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think Elon Musk, too, to your point, whether you like him or disagree or whatever, but he's a guy in innovative technology, obviously all the stuff he's done with Tesla and SpaceX, but he is opposed to government subsidies. He wants to compete on a, on a fair market economy. So there's something to be said for that. And, and I guess part of this is, just a mindset thing. But one thing I want to make sure I get your opinion on, because you say you guys survey real data manufacturers, bankers, agriculture here in the Midwest. And we just talked about a Deloitte study that did a manufacturing outlook for 25, and they say 60% of their respondents and the hundreds that they get across the nation, that talent or basically staffing the people they need to keep the engine running is their top concern.
Absolutely. That hasn't changed. We've been doing this survey, I hate to tell you how long. We've been doing our banker survey since 2006. We've been doing our manufacturing survey at Creighton since 1994. All those years, it's always the number one concern. What is your big issue? Finding and hiring qualified workers. That's all. It probably varies sometimes, but more, that's it.
Is that increasing, decreasing? As they talk about the type of workers? Is it skilled guys? Is it just production workers?
Well, it is increasing the demand. The gap between what's needed and what's there is widening. And why is that? Well, I'm part of the problem. I'm a baby boomer, and we're going out. We're leaving the labor market, and there just aren't enough behind us there. And so we need to embrace, again, legal. I'm talking about legal immigration. Illegal, I don't know anything about that. But I do know something about legal immigration. I do know about men and women sitting in my graduate class, in my undergraduate class. They come from all over the globe. We went around and we just had our first class and we introduced ourselves. I had two out of 26 from Nebraska, two. One from Omaha and one from another city. They're coming from all over the globe. One person, he kept piping up. I said, can you explain why long-term interest rates went up when the Fed cut rates? I can. And he did. He's from the Dominican Republic. And he explained it very well. And I'm like, this is going to be pretty good. This is going to be good. And we want to keep, I don't know him. That I've just met him.
I think you should ask Brett that question, see if he can answer it.
Well, I mean, I hear a lot of stuff, and some of it's.
We can edit it out.
Don't ask me, though.
Well, I tell my class there are a lot of right answers, and there are a lot of wrong answers. And I hear a lot of wrong answers. Again, but back to the question, we need to bring these younger men and women along. They're dropping out. They're playing TikTok, or not playing TikTok, watching TikTok videos. That's even worse. I mean, at least if you do, I'm not a TikTok person, but I'm on Facebook Reels. Is that any better? I don't know. But
yeah, so it's that what I think what made our country great here is economic wonder of the world is the work ethic and innovation. We need to bring that back, and I think manufacturing is kind of leading that. We've said that we've coined the phrase, we coined it, but we say it a lot. We think this is the golden age of skilled trades, guys, because of the technology, the opportunity. It's just never been better. The opportunities in manufacturing space. So it's a great time. We're very optimistic about it.
I agree, and we have to embrace it with optimism. And if our government would get out of the way in many cases, I'm not saying just let whatever happens, but embrace technology skills instead of like the longshoreman not wanting to have automation. Get real. It's a fact of life. I mean, remember? We wouldn't remember, but the farmer. How many farmers did we have in 1928 versus now? How many? If we sat, if the productivity of farming was what it was in 1929, we'd be sitting around the campfire here.
So the number of farmers was here, productivity was here. Now the number of farmers is here, and productivity is here.
Absolutely,
that's technology, and
to that. And I know this podcast goes across the globe, but nonetheless, we're in the midsection of the country, and we're talking about food. And if you look at where the productivity is great, you talk about food processing. Those companies are doing some amazing things, and it's going to help if you're talking about long-run output, a long-run economic outlook and productivity. Right down the middle section of the country is going to be great. And what's happening, some of the negatives coming out, and we just have to figure it out. One of the other students that is from Nebraska, she came up to me and talked, and her father owns she said a farm. I said, well, tell me a little bit. 25,000 head of cattle. Oh, boy. Because I grew up, my grandfather had a farm, and now it was a garden compared to it. But nonetheless, grain, he has 5 combines. 5. I'm like, 5 combines? And that's not for the cattle, of course. That's for the grain. And the problem is his city is depopulating. So their restaurants are closing. So he wants to, his idea is even in breaking even, support his community. So how do we support those rural communities because of productivity? Mm-hmm. Not stop productivity, figure out how we deal with productivity.
Yeah, good point.
No, it's very true.
Well, I know we've got to be sensitive here to time a little bit. Do you have any final questions for Dr. Goss? And
I think you've hit on a bunch of great things. I mean, obviously we're super focused on the skilled labor and those kind of things. And it's like you've said, we talk about it all the time, Dr. Goss, about the number leaving the workforce to the ones coming behind, but also the big thing too, the ones leaving are not as not as technically advanced as the ones that we need coming behind them. So, I get an opportunity to speak to some high school students this afternoon, and I think it's a long play. It's a long game here to kind of get us, like you said, we don't move super fast in the Midwest, but if we just stay steady and we stay consistent, in that, and little by little, if we can advance that. But I mean, I think you're hitting on all the things that we feel and see. You're a little closer to it, a little smarter than we are. But
we get too much credit for having that doctorate, PhD after our name. I tell you, number one attribute of a person with a PhD is low opportunity cost during your early years. What else you gonna do? I don't want to sell jockey shorts at Sears. So I go, I get, and this
And
is.
by the way, Sears used to be a really big company. Then we'd get the catalogs and look through them, and
Well, I go back to Montgomery Wards even, and I don't remember that much, but there was a Montgomery Wards.
I told somebody, and I'll let you have the final word. I told somebody the other day, I said, talk about paying them. I was joking. I said, do you take S&H green stamps? And they're like, what? I'm like, never mind. So any final words of wisdom, Dr. Goss?
I think I said I'm a perma bear, but I'm a perma bull in terms of what the long run, what we're looking at. And if we embrace the market, now not just open warfare in the market, government has to have some oversight, but let the market run. Quit interfering, quit fearing competition. The Chinese will not outcompete us. It's not. As long as we have good educational institutions, we have good men and women that embrace skill development and approach life with excitement and the job with excitement. I mean, what could be better?
Yeah.
And Japan, they were going to take over. We had that, the fear that they were going to own this. And here was what another bill, and incoming President Trump and President Biden as well, rejected the purchase of U.S. steel by Nippon. That was a huge Now, and then in the same vein, a week earlier, President Trump was talking about how he got this foreign investment. This company, the gentleman, the CEO, spoke broken English, much like I do, and he was talking about putting money here. Well, what's the difference? Nippon Steel, and what's happening is you let some of the labor unions, bosses, not the union members. It's more of the bosses are rejecting competition, and they.
Well, that was kind of the longshoremen's deal with stopping the strike, and you make some really valid points there, and I think that this. The politicians in D.C. that make a lot of policy, they're making their decisions based on some things that are maybe not in the best short-term interest for sure.
Exactly.
So I think your words of wisdom are really good and kind of align with a lot of what we're talking about. We just believe that the opportunity is there, but you got to take advantage of it and work it. We believe in the free market trade, and your insights are. That's why you're so well respected. I think, Dr. Goss, is because you bring common sense to.
Well, thank you.
To what some can be over a lot of people's heads. So we appreciate your time with us today. Thank you.
I'd like to bring up one other thing. I may not look like it, but I do a good bit of running. Maybe not that well anymore, but I run in my basement and I have a treadmill, and I watch podcasts about economics. So, and it's just in other words, if you people are like, wow, God, that's crazy. But it's the same thing with manufacturing, finding out what is being done in food production, what's being done in terms of delivery, transportation, what's going on with driverless cars, driverless trucks, what's going to happen there? Are we going to eliminate truck drivers? Those issues and just watching it and I don't know. The dean sometimes wonders, well, Ernie, when are you going to retire? I'm like, we can say this in academics. Well, what's it to you, I don't think that's a good system, but that's the way it is.
Yeah, I get it.
I said, when Ruth Bader Ginsburg retires. Then, of course, when she died, he said, well, are you going to retire now? I said, I didn't say when she died. I said when she retires. And so, Ruth Bader. So I'm going to remain around for a while.
Well, good. We appreciate. We're glad you do, because we get to hear your voice of reason here in the Midwest, and we know it's beneficial to our audience. We appreciate, as always, our great guests coming on. Your time is so valuable. Thank you again for being a guest. For those that joined us on the podcast today, it's great conversations like this that we hope bring value to you. The people that we respect out there that do this every day for a living, that drive manufacturing forward, skilled trades guys, put them to work. We're trying to solve difficult issues that are meaningful for this country. So appreciate you joining us. As always, if you find this valuable, like our podcast, subscribe, pass it on to other people, give us ideas about things you'd like us to talk about. But until next time, we appreciate you joining us on the Skillwork Forum. For Brett and myself, Tim, thank you, Dr. Goss, for joining us. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks,
Thanks.
Tim.
This is Brett Elliott, CEO and co-founder at Skillwork. Prior to starting Skillwork, I spent over 30 years in the food manufacturing space. From literally starting out cleaning the restrooms to becoming the maintenance manager, then the plant manager, to eventually becoming the president and owner, I've seen the manufacturing world from many perspectives. And like many of you, I've seen firsthand the growing need for higher skilled workers, while at the same time experiencing the shortage of this skilled talent. I started Skillwork to address that need. I knew the headhunter and the local temp agency models were not the solution. If you're experiencing the same shortage of talent at your facility, we would love to connect you with our team. Give us a call at 402-447-7058 or visit us online at skillwork.com.